Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am very excited to be back here for another episode of the Event Hustler Show. In case you don't know, my name is Liz King Caruso. Super excited to be here every week. And we talk to a wide variety of people. We talk to people in the events industry, outside of the events industry, anyone that leads to a good conversation. And today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Carolyn Herfurth. I had the opportunity to meet Carolyn many years ago. And I guess you would say I was a stalker because I was always following her work and eventually got the opportunity to work directly with her. I hired her to help me build my business. And I know she has so many great things to tell all of you today. As you start thinking about your business, we talk a lot about events and event planning, and we had a great episode a few weeks ago on COVID compliance, and there's some practical things there. But today I'm really excited to just think about business and what this could mean. So I do see Carolyn, first of all, hello. I want to make sure we say hi to you.
Hello.
So excited to have you here. I do see we have some live viewers already, so please be part of the conversation. If you have a comment or question for Carolyn or for me, jump right into wherever you're watching. We are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all these places. So let us know, and we would love to work you into the conversation. But Carolyn, I have really enjoyed the opportunity to work with you. I know that your role in my business growth has been pivotal. I originally reached out to you, and we officially worked together when I was doing my last TECHSYTALK event. And yes. I was looking at my business and saying, like, okay, I know I want to do something different now. But what could that be? And you really helped me to uncover that. And you were the catalyst behind the Ignite consulting program that I launched that has been it's just the perfect alignment of what I like to do and the value I think I can provide. And so I would love for you to just kind of start out by telling people a little more about, who you are and the work that you do so that we can kind of have that as a base to the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because all of us as business owners have people come to us at different times for different reasons and in different ways. And I do remember our very first interaction. Someone had given you my name as a speaker, and I didn't know that you were stalking me for all those years. And once you told me, I'm like, oh, I have a lot of people who stalk me, and that's actually one of the things that I think is so important for people to pay attention to in their own business. Like, what are some of those patterns that show up? So we'll talk about that. We can talk about that some more because it has to do with, but it's definitely interesting because I've kind of learned those things and they help me figure out what my next moves are. So anyway, what I do is I'm a strategic thought partner for women primarily who have service-based businesses, and they're at an inflection point or a decision point in their business. So they've grown, they've gone through growth spurts and growth pains, and they're at an inflection point in their business where they're like, you know what? It's time for me to I'm at a new place to level up. I'm at a new growth stage. And some of the people who come to me are like you, where you were a few years ago when you came to me saying, okay, I've been doing this. I know I belong in this space, but not necessarily in the way I've been doing it for the past however many years. So what are my options? What does that look like? What should I do? And you're really looking for someone who can hold a vision with you and ideate and innovate new offers that really make sense for who you are and what value you are. So that's like about 75% of my clients fall into the Liz King Caruso category of, damn, I've done well, but now what? Like, what is the next thing? The other 25% of my clients are people who have gone through the same kind of growth and success in their business. And they're like, I know I absolutely want to do this thing next, but I want someone to have my back. I need someone to bounce things off of. So everyone's coming from the same place, but there's little divergence. And so, really, I'm coming in as their strategic thought partner. Either way, I'm just doing, and my process, my approach probably doesn't even change that much, because either way, if someone comes to me and says, this is what I want to do, I want to be like, okay, why? And what's that look like? And what do you think you should charge for it? And I'm going to ask them to help them figure out. And I've got all sorts of stories of people came to me thinking they knew what their next step was. And then we slightly modified it or drastically modified it because it wasn't exactly the right fit for them. So anyway, that was a really long-winded answer.
No, I like it. And I think it's so important to focus on those two reasons. Obviously, from a business standpoint, everyone is at a different stage and they have a different, quote unquote problem. They have something that they're dealing with. And one of the things I have never really respected about coaches is when they kind of try to be like everything, or consultants. They're like, oh, at any point in your business, you can come to me for any reason and any problem and I'll help you. I think your marketing has always been very strong, that you're at this kind of pivotal point where you're not, as far as I understand, you don't work with like brand new businesses and help them figure out, should they be an S Corp or, you're right at this point where it's like, you've seen a level of success and you've built. I remember you reminding me of, so what are the awards you've gotten? What are the things people trust you for? Those are questions you can't answer right away when you first start your business. And that's, I think, some of the value that you really provide is helping people to figure that out. Your comment earlier about people stalking you was funny because when we launched the Ignite program and I looked back at my Facebook, like, how you get those memories and, not stalkers, but you look at these, you're like, oh my gosh, this client has been liking my posts since 2004 or whatever.
I didn't even know what it meant. Like it hadn't registered that there was this fan who was waiting for something more from you.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned there are a few other things that you've noticed in terms of like identifying potential opportunities, whether it's a new program that you want to offer, a new offer, or whatever it is. Part of it is, of course, the iteration around what that idea is. Part of it is identifying who wants this and what do they want. Anything you want to share in either of those directions?
Well, yeah, I could go down a lot of rabbit holes with with that. I think whether you're, I'm just going to say, Liz, you identify with the what is it or this is what I think it is, where every single person should start when they're in that what now, what's next mode, is really looking at their history and their hangups and their heroics. And I can talk through each of those a little bit more, but I already mentioned like the history part. This is looking at patterns, your own patterns of success, patterns of self-sabotage, got them, patterns of how people have responded to you or approached you. So so when you're in this place of reflection and wanting to get to that next thing or next level in your business, the history part of it is very interesting and you can come at those patterns from a lot of different places. But I always start with, like, for me, I know when it's time for me to make a change in my business. I find that I'm super restless and do not have patience for stuff I have been doing for the past 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I get super restless. And then that gets wrapped up in like boredom and long naps or long walks. And, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, what is my life purpose? What am I even doing? And but if I notice that sense of restlessness, to me, that's a pattern. And I can go back to that over the past almost 20 years. I've been in business 18 plus. I can go back and go, oh, this restlessness that's a pattern. That's something that it means something needs to change. And I don't need to let it devolve or become this big thing. It's just like, oh, start paying attention because you're restless. And so for me, that's a pattern. But you can also, and for other people, a pattern might be they hit an upper limit and they don't think they can go further. So every time it's time for them to level up, they're like, I don't know. I think I'm kind of, this is it. Who's going to trust me or believe me to change gears now or start offering something else? And so there's that. Oh my gosh, there's so many different ways, different patterns that we have. You can probably even pinpoint some of your own patterns. What do you think your pattern is?
Well, one of the activities you had me do was to, like you said, to write down like the successes of your business and the failures of your business. And that really allowed me to see, one of the things I saw that was a big failure for me was like taking on more than what I know is like my area of genius, like just exactly what I'm perfect at. And I catch myself doing it to this day, literally today, still having the same thought. It's like my skill set is applied to so many different things, like what you do to organize an event could be an administrative role. It could be, and so it's very easy for me to be like, I can also help you with that. And I can help you with that. And I can also add that, before you know it, the scope is huge. The budgets are small and you're like way in over your head. And that's one thing from my history. I've learned little things like being super specific in contracts and setting those boundaries that I learned from this the work that I did with you, because it's one of those things like you make this mistake 1,000 times, or you have these situations. Like for me, when you're talking about being restless, for me, it's just a lack of productivity. I could do a billion things, but when it's time to change, suddenly I just can't answer any emails. I cannot, and so it's in doing this work though with someone else where you identify those things, or you take the time to reflect yourself. Otherwise, I think it's easy to just get lost in like, I did it again. Oh, there it goes again.
Oops, I did it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some people might see a return of the Sunday night blues. You know how like, oh, I don't want to go to bed because then I have to get up and work tomorrow. Like there's so many different ways it shows up. And I think most of the people I work with are very self-aware like you of, oh my gosh, here are my patterns. So I just feel like it's really important. And some people find themselves daydreaming. They might be daydreaming about what the past, like, oh, I really miss doing X, or they might be daydreaming about the future. And I think those are really awesome things to pay attention to when it comes to like recognizing that change is coming. And and then like, I'm also a resistor. Oftentimes I will resist this call because I don't recognize it. So, patterns are one area of history to look at, but and by the way, I'm just going to mention this. It's not ready right now, but if, one of the things that I'm working on right now is like you can just go to my website. You will be able to go to my website and walk through a series of videos where it's kind of like a conversation with me, where instead of a chat bot, it's actually me talking to you, where I can guide you through this self-reflection of your history, hangups, and heroics, because there's so much to cover in it that we're probably not going to get to all of it today, but just email me or go to my website at some point and check it out. There's no even opt-in. It's literally just me talking to you and you kind of clicking some buttons, and it's a choose your own adventure type of thing. But I think that no matter whether you're coming from the Liz place of growth, I'm not sure what it is next, or I know exactly what it is, those are really important things, because someone who thinks they know exactly what it is. So I had a client a year or two ago who she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She wanted to create a membership program for her training center. And, all her clients were corporate, and she like had gone through Goldman Sachs, the 10K thing or whatever that program is. I can't think of it. And she had like built this thing out. Now she just wanted me to help her execute it. And as I was looking at the plan, looking at everything she wanted to do, I'm like, you're totally missing a trick here, because your biggest value for these companies is this assessment that you give them before they join your membership. And we ended up making the membership like a little bit of her growth program and totally blowing out the assessment. Her clients were blown away by this assessment. And that's where she was able to make, like, that's where her money opportunity is. So that's another one of those things. And what we figured out with her, one of her patterns, historically, is that she's a tinkerer. She likes to tinker, and that can stop her. Like, it can help it. She can be blind to some of these obvious things that I was able to see as soon as we started working together. So that those types of things, I just think really knowing yourself is such an important first step in determining what your next move is. So I think I got totally off of your initial question from 10 minutes ago.
Not here we are. This is why I love talking to you. I mean, there's so much gold all along the way, and I don't have really a plan for where this has to go. So
me either.
Okay, we can go wherever. I think that's the best part about this. I do want to talk to you a little bit about your business and how you decided that this group of people, women, six or seven figure businesses, are where you want to serve, and that's where you enjoy. How did you kind of land there? I know not everyone knows kind of the storyline, and so I'd love for people to kind of hear that too.
Yeah. So I started this business 11 years ago after I had owned a franchise for 7 years, helping people find and start businesses. And after 7 years in my franchise, I got restless. Pattern. Got restless, and I'm like, oh, what should I do with my life? And I started a sales training company, and that company evolved into running the company that I have today. And when I did sales training, that was a big focus. And what I realized, having been in the franchise world, helping people find and start franchises, you really had to make sure you were in the right business model. So I went from that to creating a sales training program. And then people would come to me to sell something. I'd be like, your business model sucks. Like, this doesn't even fit you. And it doesn't fit your people. No wonder you can't sell it. The selling's not your problem. Your business model is your problem. So I evolved into creating an accelerator that taught women specifically how to create a business model that suits them perfectly, and how to make decisions for themselves rather than me saying, here's the blueprint, go do it. It's like, how do you make decisions for yourself about what makes sense for you, and then how to sell it, and a lot of other things that went with it. But that accelerator was for the women who hadn't hit 100,000 yet in their business. And so I did that for many, many years. And about 4 years into it, I kind of hit this wall. It was probably around the time of the last election. And I just hit this wall. I'm like, I'm feeling a little stale in delivering this. And I loved the program so much. It was my identity. People would say, so what are you doing? I'm like, I run an accelerator for women entrepreneurs. Like, that was my thing. And I felt so much ego and identity. Like, it was really a part of me. So it was really hard to let go, which, again, resistance pattern. There's my pattern of resistance. And it took me almost 2 years to finally let it go. And during that process, which was painful, I could have made it happen a lot faster if I would have been more self-aware, which is why I think this stuff is so important for entrepreneurs at that level. Because it was, I had a multiple six-figure line of business just with that accelerator. And so, of course, I don't want to let go, $250,000. So that was tough. And then also I started noticing in the last year and a half or so of delivering the accelerator, I didn't like marketing it anymore. The clients started asking questions where I'd be like, you should know this, but they didn't need to know this. I was just tired of answering it. So I knew I was, feeling stale. And so I remember being home for Christmas and talking with my dad, who at the time was probably 86, 87. He's now 89 and a half. And saying, I think I really just want to focus on, I've always been doing VIPs and private work with people, but I'm finding I'm enjoying that a little bit more, like the one-on-one work with people who have already hit a certain level of success and they just need help with that pivot point. And so we chatted about it. My dad is a retired banker, so he loves getting into like all of the businessy questions with me. And it was just, that's how it evolved. That's just like, I think I made that decision 2 or 3 years ago. And when did we work together? 3 years ago?
I guess it was 2017. No, 2018. Yeah.
18. Yep. That's when I went that direction. And I still was having a hard time letting go of my accelerator, but I knew when you and I were working, like, that's all I wanted to do was that, but I was too afraid to let go of the other stuff. And that's a common feeling. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one whose identity is wrapped up. Like, look at, you're back talking TECHSYTALK. You may not be doing in-person events, but like there's something about it. And I think that's another part of looking at your history. And like, if some daydreams are kind of coming along, like, oh, you know what I really miss about TECHSYTALK is this. I miss working with Ed, or, you know, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just think that that's such an important starting point for all of us. So there's, again, another long answer for you.
I like it. So tell me more about, we were talking about the history, the hangups, and the heroics. We talked a little bit about the history. I think hangups, I think, I don't know, is that true? Every business owner kind of gets the hang-up problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's the headaches. It's the things you find yourself complaining about. Like, my Irishman is a contractor, and he's been complaining about the same damn things forever. And I'm like, stop. We know it's a headache. Shut up. Find a solution, or stop complaining to me about it, because it's not my problem. I love you, but you're getting annoying. And so like those headaches, the things we find, that's one thing. That's really a big thing. And holdups, like, what are our excuses for not making change? What are the reasons or the rationale that we give each other? And I find that really a fascinating part of the conversation, because we're not always honest with ourselves about what our real objections are. It's just like anyone who's been in business for any length of time knows that when someone says, oh, I can't afford it, or it's not in my budget, the money objection, the money holdup is really not the reason. There's a reason behind the reason. So you might say, well, I don't want to do it because, but really, is that holdup for, like, tie back to some pattern in your history that you always have, like, I'm not worthy of making more money, or, I want to maintain my perceived financial safety and security. It feels very real, but what if that next step is even bigger, and so I mean, you're right.
Resonates a lot, just thinking about those financial moves and what that might mean, whether, those business moves, which often are financial moves, and what that might mean to what you've been holding on to that feels really comfortable, even if you don't even like it that much. It's like, but I know that it can, my projections lay out a certain way if I do X, Y, and Z, and I don't want to let that go. I mean, it's a big move. What about the heroics part of what you're talking about?
One of the heroics is actually interesting to me, because, this is like, what awards have you gotten? What kind of, visibility have you gotten? But I look at heroics. I use the acronym FLOW as kind of an easy way to remember what the heroics are. And that's the financials. Like, what have you accomplished up until now? And what are your, like, what are your next level? Like, what do you want next? What are your fantasy financial? So it's like the finances. What lifestyle achievements have you had? So I always think of one of my clients who had a 3-day work week. And she came to me and she said, I want to get rid of this one revenue stream, but it's multiple 6 figures. But I don't want to let go of my 3-day work week because I've got a kid. I love our time. So it's the lifestyle piece. And we had to figure out what's something we can create that will replace that revenue stream and still allow you to only work a 3-week work week. For other people, lifestyle might be their vacation or, social life or whatever, but lifestyle. And then the O in flow is it's ownership. So what intellectual property have you created? What are you known for? So TECHSYTALK is your intellectual property. Like, everything around it is like ties back to you. So what brands, books, TEDx talks, PR, anything that is your intellectual property, I call it ownership, is the O. And then the W really stands for a lot of things. It's what's your why, what makes you feel whole, what gets you like wired up, what wisdom have you created? So there are a lot of things that stands to, but I really think it's important to understand like why we do what we do. Like you might be able to just look at Lucas and say, this is it. This is why I do what I do. But Lucas hasn't always been here. So, is there something that's changed? Or so that piece is the heroics. So this is like, and it's also your customer testimonials. Like what have they said that makes you so amazing? And what are the things within that? So, we can all say, oh, Liz is great. She's really nice. But what are the like little things within that really where you start to see threads, like going from being an event organizer and planner to running a mastermind and a consulting business. That's a different thing, but we looked at your skill set. We looked at your accomplishments. We looked at your award. We looked at all of that stuff. And that's why it was a logical next step move for you. And you got excited about it. Like you liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
and it's one of those things that you like, once you put it together. I remember leaving our meeting and being so excited. We talked about, that like procrastination mode, but it's really the importance of finding someone who can help you see the vision. Because when I came to you, it was kind of like, okay, I know this is good. This I want to get rid of. I had a general sense of what I liked and what I didn't, but I couldn't figure out like, what could I do? And some of what we came up with together was stuff that I had thought about and thought, well, no one's going to want that. It's like, well, no, and I remember the day that I left you, I then went to get coffee with a friend and I'm like unpacking. I'm like, oh, I just got out of this thing. I'm like telling her everything. And then they were saying, well, do you think people are going to want to pay for that? And it was like all the doubts, right? And I left feeling like she just doesn't know, because now I was like, now I know
our strategy session was for you. But there are always people who are going to try to shoot holes in your stuff. And I think that's why it's so important to like really go through and take the time to understand why and build up why this is the thing. And 99% of my clients come to me with the idea buried in there somewhere. It's somewhere. And I think it's my job to extract the right idea and talk. And I always say to people, I don't have any ego attached to what you decide to do. So if I throw out ideas and you don't like it, I might ask you why not, so I can like understand these pieces. But it's really important to just like, it is, you always have the idea, but you're looking at the holdups. Well, how could I possibly charge for this?
Yeah.
Or who would possibly want to buy it? Or, and so that's what our initial strategy is all about, is getting you to that point where you're like, oh, I see it.
Yeah. Now, I can't wait to check out this new thing on your website, which is not there yet, right? It's going to be there soon, this new video walkthrough. So,
yep.
Okay. I'm going to just, stalk. I'm very good at stalking. I'm just command refresh. It's like I'll have the COVID vaccine on one side and then your website on another, just hitting refresh. But I really would like for people who are watching either now or hear the recording later to consider working with you. So how do you want them to connect with you, I guess, is what I would ask.
Actually, I mean, they can email me anytime, Carolyn@carolynherfurth.com. But the one thing I would say is I really do want people to go through this history, hangups, and heroics piece, because that self-reflection is going to help you decide, yes, I want to keep moving forward. Help me interpret this. Or just say, you know what? Actually, maybe where I'm at is okay. And that's fine. So, and I make that non-gated. Ungated. I don't need your name if you're not my people. So basically, once you go through that, and it's a video sequence, once you go through that and everything's right on my website at carolynherfurth.com, will be on my website. It just, once you get to the end of it, you're going to say, I want to talk to Carolyn or I don't. And then I'll just talk with you, and we'll have an ideation session and discuss whether it makes sense for you to make a move and whether or not I'm the right resource to help you do that. So I'm not for everybody, and not everybody is right for me. So, it's cool.
Very
smart. So I'm trying to let my website and the videos do all the self-reflection work that I know people will benefit from before they make a move. It'll make you feel so much more powerful about your move too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so we will check that out. Thank you so much for all the work you've helped me do in my business, but also for sharing that. I know you've spoke at TECHSYTALK. You're now joining me today, so I'm so glad to get the word out about the kind of work that you do because it's so transformational. So I really thank you for your time today.
Thanks for the invitation. It was fun to see you.
Yes. All right, folks, we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. Thank you for joining us live or whether you're listening to the recording. We do this every week, and I don't even know what the topic next week is. I should probably look at the calendar, but we will definitely be here. So thank you guys for joining. We'll see you all soon. Until then, hustle hard.